Happy Planner meets mixed media with Creative Katie. That's me, Karen Burchill. On the screen right now, you're going to be seeing some of the past week's spreads that I've created in my Happy Planner using mixed media techniques and supplies. My goal here is to use my stash and to not buy more products or different products. It's a challenge that I've given myself and I'm loving it. I get to create colorful, personalized spreads each week, and I get to feel good about using some things in my stash that, quite honestly, really weren't getting enough daylight time. If you want to see any of these spreads being created, please go to my playlist, Happy Planner Meets Mixed Media. They're all there. So here's week 11, and here is a sneak peek of the spread that we are going to create together.
Hi everybody, Creative Katie, getting ready to do week number 11, the March 6th to the 12th, doing my weekly spread. And this time I went to my stash of gelli prints. I really enjoyed using the gelli print last time to create with. So I have created a whole bunch of gelli prints with blue, green, different shades of blue, different shades of green. And so I have the whole stash. So I'm kind of really into trying to use them. I'm also into trying to figure out my silhouette cameo. So what I did is I cut feathers out of my silhouette cameo. And with my silhouette cameo, it was a cut file that I purchased. So I'm going to use some of these and the scraps of what was left of the gelli print for my tracking, because I really like the idea from last week where I had the same gelli print throughout. I really liked the look and the feel of that. So I just was kind of rescuing little bits to put here for my trackers and my labels. And you know, it's a little piddly little job, but you know what, I don't mind. You know, I'm using up all the little bits and pieces of that. So I have my feathers here, a couple sizes of feathers, and of course that just took me to the whole dream catcher thing. So I have, this is actually a stencil that I again cut with my silhouette, and I'm trying to master the silhouette. So I thought I would stencil that on and glue these feathers in here, kind of like that in there, and glue down the labels, and then we'll see where that takes us and where we end up. I also dug out my little box that has all the stamps and things that I'm using on every weekly spread. So I have that here. In there I have all my green and blue stickers that have been pre-made. So we'll see if we can get something there to match. And I also threw in, because at the beginning of the month when I decided on my color theme, I put in all my partially done ATC cards, and actually some of them are completely done like this. So I'm just going to set these down here and see, now that I have a starting point, which of these fit. There's some really lovely ones, but I just, want to see which one kind of fits. And I have kind of a navy blue in there. I used the aqua, and I used, I think it was Prussian blue in there, and it has the gold So, you know, I'm kind of looking in the camera. Sometimes I take a picture, you know, I can eliminate some of these. And they'll just go in and be saved for next week. Between this, we have kind of that same blue. We've got the gold. Kind of have the aqua. I think that one can be saved. So I think it's between these two. But regardless, I'm going to need, because I am going to punch it like I did last time, to have it two-sided. So what I'm going to do there is collage on the bits and pieces that I have left over on this. So instead of recreating, I'm just going to kind of use that.
Okay, so now that we have a basic game plan, it's time to get started. So I'm just going to remove some of these things and get out the stamps that I have that I keep in this plastic bin with all the other planner stuff. And just having it all in one place really saves time. And I was thinking about going and stamping for the rest of the month these numbers, but it really doesn't save time to do that ahead of time. What makes the difference is having it all in one place. So I'm going to try using this dollar store mouse pad underneath to get a better stamping effect. And I'm using blue because there is that dark blue in this color scheme. And I want it to coordinate. Black would work too if that's all you have. I'm just stamping in the numbers, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's a 0 at the bottom, and I always just make sure I wipe off the ink off of that if some gets on. Now just with the glue stick, I'm gluing in these pieces of jelly print for the headings for my to-do lists. And the top is going to be my to-do list for household things. My bottom is my create list. And typically I fill these out kind of Sunday, the Sunday before. I kind of look at what I had in last week's planner, and moving forward, I move things over. I figure out what kind of things I need to get done in the week, and that's what I write in there. Eventually, some of those things find their way on particular days. So I'm folding these little strips in half just to punch them. And again, I use these 4 hole punched areas as my tracker for water. I find that that's really helping me make sure that I drink the right amount of water, even though I may not actually get around to checking it off. And I'm just using the glue stick. Now, I'm not a big fan of the purple glue stick. They say it dries clear, but it did not in my last planner weekly spread. Not happy. So I'm not going to put it directly onto the page when the holes see through, because I don't want to see that purple. So this is my cut stencil, and it was a Silhouette cut file that I purchased from Silhouette. I don't know the name, but if you Google or do a search on Silhouette for stencils, you should be able to find it. I don't know that it was particularly or exactly a dream catcher stencil labeled as that. So I have the kind of teal green and blue, and I grabbed the purple because I'm thinking I want to see if I can blend the colors with the purple to make kind of a darker bluish look. So I'm just going over this, and I'm kind of taking a sneak peek because I'm not sure if this is really how I want to go. So I'm just adding the blue, and I'm not too worried about making it perfect and covering every area. I like the randomness of it all. So after briefly thinking I wasn't going to add purple, I decided, give it a try. And I'm glad I did, because when it crossed over with the blues, it did make a dark purplish bluish that reads as the same color of blue that's in everything else. And quite honestly, I think it just made the coloring here. So I'm really enjoying my distress inks, so much so that I'm thinking I should buy some more. But I'm holding off because the goal is to use the stash, not increase the stash. But now that I have a set purpose for it, and that makes me happy. So I'm just going to glue all these feathers down, and I'm spreading them out so I can still, if I need to write in the squares, I can still do that. I found from past weeks that I tend to plan more on the first part of the week. That's where I do all my writing. That's where I do all, put down my ideas. So it's kind of how I've fallen into putting the image or the ATC cards on the right side of the planner spread, the weekly spread. But that's what works for me. But even when I've had things in there, there's lots of room to write. And while it is beautiful as it is, if I need to write on there, I will write on top of the dream catcher. I will write in between the feathers. If I love it so much, I can always take this idea and use it to make an art journal page or another week spread. So I'm taking my blue Stabilo All pencil and just outlining the feathers and then activating it with water on a round brush. I tried the black and it just seemed a little too harsh for this page. If you don't have a Stabilo All pencil, you can use a watercolor pencil, Inktense pencils, anything where you're not going to put a lot of water onto there. You could even use the mermaid paint pens or other paint pens because you're not going to be putting a whole lot of water on the page. The funny thing, this jelly print, it was a jelly print that really didn't work out. I was trying something different with masking and it didn't work out, but I really liked the color combo. So using the jelly print in this way really works. So I'm taking the distress ink, since that's what I have out, and just stamping it on my craft mat and just painting kind of to get that teal color behind the numbers. And a quick dry. Whenever I put any kind of liquid, even if it's a limited amount, I try to dry it. Sometimes that's off camera, but I am doing that to keep it dry. So I grabbed the Prussian blue that I know I used in the jelly print, and I'm going to put some of that on the craft mat, and I'm going to use it to stamp the label, the to-do label and the create label. I'm just spreading it out to get a thin layer, so kind of make my own little stamp pad with the acrylic paint. And I'm just going to see, make sure it's going to look like what I have in my mind, and stamp. And always, always, always wash your stamps after you put acrylic paint on them. And then I have my little stamp set that I got from the dollar bin at Michael's, and I'm just going to stamp to do. All these stamps again go in that little container that goes in my one bag where all the planner stuff is. All the templates are there, all the items that I pull at the beginning of the month once I pick my color theme. Now I have a lot of paint left over, so I decide that I'm just going to splatter. And I'm using a fan brush to splatter. I like the effect of using the fan brush. I'm going to do both sides. And then since I have some left over, I decide that I'm just going to color some of these stickers that I have. None of them really have that dark blue, so I figured, hey, I've got some on the pad here. I'm just going to put them on those stickers. And I think I do reinforcements right away. And that way it's going to match this page. So once you have a base coat, you can always tweak it to make it the perfect match for whatever spread you're happening to do. What I love about this is because I'm decorating these things as I go, I don't have a stash that I have to store. I decide that I'm going to make my daily to-do list, brainstorm list for my creative part, which is how I've used the bottom two sections. One for my blog, one for my YouTube channel, or for different videos series that I have. So I figure that puts the color on that side of the page and kind of balances it out. So I'm thinking, what next? What next? And I decide to cut some strips and glue them down, and I'm going to put a quote on the bottom. One, this gives a little bit of color and grounds, seems to ground the page. And then I like the inspirational quotes. So off camera, you didn't see me going through my quote binder where I've taken quotes that I found on Pinterest. Every once in a while I go and I type them up. You know, as I'm watching TV, I type them up and then I change the fonts. And what I've done is I've printed off a whole bunch in different fonts, different sizes, and it stays in my quotes binder. And then when I'm doing a project like this or an ATC, I just can flip through there and I've got the perfect size quote. And I just match the saying to what I'm feeling or the theme that I've picked. So here's the ATC that I've picked. And as promised, I'm just going to use up these bits and pieces that were left over from after I cut the feathers out. And I'm just going to collage this all down. Now I start with the glue stick, but then I realize that I find that the glue stick doesn't stick permanently, so you'll see me switch to my gel medium. And I'm just layering it, and I'm really trying hard to avoid where it's the straight aqua. I want to get that navy in there, or at least some of it. That's kind of the color that I really like this week. So I'm simply layering this and gluing it down on top and on bottom. Because there's so many layers and so many little pieces, this does take a long time to dry. Sorry, there was a siren in the back. I let it pass. So I'm just layering it. Now this is all pieces from one jelly print, but you could use collage pieces from different jelly prints and get a different colored, multicolored background. So a good way of using your scraps. When I was done, there was just literally a minuscule amount of this jelly print left. So I'm letting that dry, and I'm stamping with Versamark on the one sticker that I'm going to put in the top left-hand corner, and I'm using gold embossing powder. Just brushing off a little bit of the excess. Embossing is something I love the look of, and it's always so amazing, but I really don't do a great job of it. Now I'm holding this down with my paintbrush. That tip actually melted under the heat of the heat gun. So using scissors or something that wasn't plastic may have been a better decision. But I love when in that moment where it just bursts out the color. There you can, it's kind of, you can see that it bends. Love that. So even though I found another way to add even more shimmer and shine. And so This is something that I think I'm going to be doing every week, just putting one inspirational sticker at the top left-hand corner. So I'm not done with the embossing powder. I realized that I had a stamp with a dream catcher, so I'm going to stamp that on. Now, it didn't stamp very well because, of course, I have many layers and it's not exactly a smooth surface. So it's kind of a broken dream catcher, but I'm okay with that. And, you know, if I continue to do embossing on my planner, that's something that I'm going to have to remember, that it works best on a smooth surface. So I just want to make the edges all gold, so I am rubbing them in, pressing them into the stamp pad, the Versamark stamp pad, and then I will dip it into the gold embossing powder. And this will put gold embossing on both sides of the ATC. It also kind of seals, if you have paper that's glued on, it also seals the edges of the card. Just making sure that there's not any loose embossing powder on this side. So there's my UATC for this, and I'm going to put a suitable quote. Dreams don't work unless you do. And as usual, I'm putting that on with my matte medium, gel medium, and giving it a quick dry. And getting my arc punch. Now I should have thought this through because it's a little tough now to get it into there because I've added the embossing powder. I've added the layers of collage and the layers of embossing on the edge, but I got it done. So now putting everything back together, and I just want to deciding which way I want this to look and where I want it. I don't want it to really interfere with the dream catcher, so I kind of like it right there. And so here you see me kind of struggling to get it in, but I persevere and I do get it. And being careful to put it in. And then I decide, oops, I forgot to outline the quote, because you absolutely have to do that, in my world anyways. And since there's black in the dream catcher, I'm using a black Stabilo here. And just activating it with some water. And I'm thinking I'm done. But I'm not. I decide that I'm going to get out my Sakura Jelly Roll pens, my gold, and outline the white of the dream catcher. I wasn't going to because I thought, well, what if I want to write in that area? I still can if I need to, but it just adds that little something something. And I'm kind of doing a sketchy, I'm not being very perfect here at all. I really love the smoothness of the Sakura Jelly Roll pens. I find them perfect to use on these spreads. Just deciding to use the gold to outline the feathers. And let me remind you that a list of the materials that I use in creating this planner, our planner spread, are in the description box. Just click on the link and it will take you to the Amazon store. Full disclosure, I do get a small percentage back, but it does not cost you more if you go through my Amazon store and buy your things through there. The monies that I make are put right back into my art supplies so that I can create more videos and do a better job of the videos. So if you're buying stuff from Amazon, please help me out. So there is the spread, and again, I absolutely love it. It just feels like everything came together perfectly, from the ATC that I had pre-existing to the colors to the feathers, just everything. It constantly amazes me that every spread I am able to find a different way of doing it, and I can get really creative with it and really personalize my page and my spread for myself. When I get down to planning, I really am happy with my happy planner that I've now been able to make my own. And each weekly spread is really an art journal page that I get to use. Take time to like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it, and don't forget to come back and see what I'm up to.